He was agitated, wasn't he? I mean, he's agitated walking over towards the Arsenal fans at the end, and I can see why. I know what he's saying about the first half, about how well they played. They dominated the game, but it's not line ball, where you have to basically run the ball over the 18-yard line and put your foot on it to basically score a goal. You need to put the ball in the back of the net, and he knows that better than anybody. I think Arsenal, for a couple of years, have done that really well. But the biggest inquest at Arsenal at the end of this season will be, why did we not sign a striker? Now, is that because he wasn't provided with one by the recruitment team? They haven't signed one now for 2 or 3 years. And did he not want one? Is that the answer? But they're
Surely
not. I don't know. It's a mystery as to how they've ended up in a position whereby it's all on Kai Havertz, because he doesn't fancy Gabriel Jesus as a striker anyway. And the same stuff that we saw and seen for quite a long time now with Arsenal is that they're recycling the ball really well around the edge of the box, but they haven't got that ability to be able to cut through teams, and it's costing them.
Ultimately, Paul, is that how this season is going to be defined by Arsenal? That failure to have a striker, someone who can step in when they have suffered these injuries?
Yeah, I would have said so. I think because if you look at the games that they've, no disrespect to West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Man United, I think if they got their full team out and the 3 forwards playing in Saka, Martinelli and Havertz, I think they take 7 points at least out of them 3 games instead of 2. But I still don't think that's enough to have caught Liverpool. I think we're just covering over the cracks a little bit, if I'm being honest.
I agree.
I'm with Jamie. I don't think it's been great this season. I don't think they've been as dominant in football matches as what we've seen them in the last couple of years. I think they've fallen off a little bit, in my opinion.
But is that because he hasn't had the tools?
No, they weren't playing well with all their team at the start of the season. There wasn't that efficiency or that calmness or that ability to kill teams off that we've seen in previous years this season. I thought they were so reliant on set pieces. That's obviously not working at the moment. I don't think that there's been a joy in Arsenal's play this season compared to last year before. And if you go back to the year before that, when they had Xhaka in midfield as well, I just don't see it. This year there's been a lot of, and even with Bukayo Saka, there were games at home when they couldn't finish teams off. They haven't been at the level they have in previous years, I don't think.
And 10 draws, is it? 10 draws, you're not winning any league title with 10 draws.
So what does that come down to, do you think, Roy? Is it the makeup of the squad? Is it the approach of a head coach who has only known progress so far in his 5 years at Arsenal?
Yeah, a bit of everything, and I'm sure there would have been frustration from the last few years that they didn't get over the line or they didn't get themselves a cup or whatever it might be. And then you have the injuries, and then we saw the manager there. He certainly looks frustrated. He, when obviously the title was gone a few weeks ago, but he would still want his club and his team to show great mentality, to say, I still want to come here and try and keep some sort of pressure on Liverpool. But over the last 2 or 3 games, that's gone now. And we mentioned it earlier. I think the biggest concern now is what's happening with the teams behind him. They've lost that momentum for the season. I think what we saw here today was nowhere near good enough. And they've set really high standards the last few years. So on one hand, you want to give them credit, but we always say the next step is the hardest step in terms of trying to win a league title.
Well, do you think it's a matter of time, Gary, before they make that next step?
Well, maybe, but why was he so agitated when Patrick asked him that question about the striker? Normally when you see a manager act like that and he sort of walked off the... I mean, he seemed to walk off, that's what I looked like.
Maybe that's a frustration that it didn't happen. Maybe he really wanted it to happen.
But that's my point. You know, usually if you see a manager sort of... Not losing, it's going a step too far, but walk off at an interview when he's being asked a question, you normally think that something's sort of getting to them, it's coming on top a little bit. Is he sick of being asked that question? Does he think that's too simple an answer that he hasn't got a striker? But the fact of the matter is it'll still continue to be asked. The reason it'll continue to be asked is because there are hundreds of thousands of Arsenal fans who for many months and years now have said we need a striker. It's not just, you know, us in this studio or Patrick Davison who's asking him a question. Arsenal fans, and you can't kid football fans, they know their team as well as anybody. They need a striker. They needed a top-class striker in that changing room. And I do think a top-class striker would have made a big difference. I agree with what they've said here, that actually the step up in performance. But Liverpool can not play well. And because of their options up front, can win games. Yesterday, they can be 1-0 down against Southampton. You were watching the game, Merson, on Soccer Saturday, and I was listening to you. And they can just, through moments of Diaz, Nunez, others, win games. You know, they've got options off the bench. Mikel Arteta has not got those options.
Would you sit there with confidence, Jamie, and say that next season, OK, if they sign a striker, that Arsenal will be challenging for the title?
Yeah, they will. Yeah, absolutely. I'm confident in that. I think, but they've got to start an elite striker. And the problem is, how hard are they to find? It's incredibly difficult. No one really wants to sell their best player. They always get spoken about with Alexander Isak, who is obviously elite. because obviously you see the goals he's got and how he plays, but it's not going to be that easy. Do you think that Arsenal are going to be the only players in town, even if he were to leave Newcastle? Barcelona are talking about wanting him as well. There's been a load of clubs that will want him, but they've got to find someone. Is it Sesko as well? They've been mentioned in trying to get, but it's just a case of, I think the guy said it earlier on, a striker, because even though Kai Havertz has done well, they signed him as a number 8. They signed him as an extra midfield player. Then you ask him to go and be a killer in the box, and yes, he had some good moments, but is he an out-and-out striker that's going to get you 20 goals? Is he going to get you Salah's numbers? That's what they've got to try to find. And if they do, with their defensive stability, they've got a really good goalkeeper that we all like, and midfield, they will certainly go close next season.
Roy, you said the next step is the hardest. Do you have confidence that they will make this step under Mikel Arteta?
No.
Why not?
Why would I? What makes you think they can do it, or the manager can do it? They've got close over the last few years, and City will be strong next year. Listen, I'm sure Liverpool will be strong next year. Where's the evidence to think they can do it? Would it be get another striker in? Yeah, obviously that would help. Have they got the right mentality? Has this manager, we just seen there at the interview, getting frustrated, which is fine, because you see a different side to managers when they're winning every week. It's great. We've seen that even with Pep. But all of a sudden, when they're losing matches or they're not getting the rewards they think they deserve, they get all agitated and frustrated. And that's fine. I've been there and done it. But what is the evidence to think that if they get somebody to get 20 goals, that we'll sit there and go, well, that'll be the difference. I don't think it necessarily will be. I
suppose the evidence might be that they got 89 points last season, 85 the season before. It looks like they will fall short of this season because of the injuries they had.
Yeah, so
if they get those players back and they can add to that group.
Yeah, of course, all ifs and ands. But again, do you think City and Liverpool are just going to stand still? They're going to keep looking to improve. Listen, Pep will bounce back. I think Liverpool will be stronger next year. These teams aren't going anywhere, and they've had a bit of a dip this year, particularly Man City. We don't know what Chelsea are. We don't know what one or two other teams improving. But what's the evidence again from the Arteta or this group of players that they've got that mentality to challenge? We talk about it's not like challenging for a title, but to me, in my mentality, it's about winning titles, not challenging.
It feels a bit like whack-a-mole for them, really, doesn't it? Whereby they just always sort of like... The first season they didn't win, it was because they didn't have Saliba and they needed someone to back him up, so then they signed defenders. Last season it was because, so they go and sign players that, you know what I mean? It feels like they're always behind. This season it's because they haven't got strikers or attacking players, so they're going to go and say... But the other teams are still improving, as Roy says. The other teams are still getting better. So I think that it's not just about a striker, it's probably about a couple of forwards. You know, Liverpool have forwards that can play across...
Options,
yeah, forward options that can play across that front line, that will score goals and chip in. Gakpo chips in, you know, Diaz chips in, Nunez chips in, Jota chips in. They all chip in with goals. Salah does more than chip in, you know what I mean? But a couple of forwards to add to that group and keep the defence and midfield as it is, they have got a chance, but are they going to get those players? And they always feels like they're one step behind.
Paul, just have the final say on this in terms of what Roy's been talking about, that perhaps Roy has a lack of conviction about them taking that next step with Mikel Arteta. What's your take on that?
I think they'll be in the title race next season. I think they've got to buy in the summer. They have to buy, and they will be in it if they don't get injured. If injuries, I said it before, if Van Dijk was out for 3 months and Salah were out for 3 months, Liverpool wouldn't be top of the league and lost one game. You know, they make differences. You know, you're never going to get a squad like Man City assembled over the last 3, 4, 5 years. That's never going to happen again. So you'll have to rely on players coming into the team, whoever they may be. Liverpool at the moment have got their team, and as Gary said, them forwards, that's why they're going to win the league. They've all got at least 10 goals and Salah's got 20 or 30 in him. They've got to rely on players to come into the team that are not going to be better than what they've got. And at the moment, the front three, we've got a young kid who's going to be a superstar. We've got Trossard, who really was brought in as an understudy, and a centre midfield player playing up front.
What about
would
Sterling,
never happen in any other country.
What about Sterling? I mean, Mikel wanted him in, and then he's left him on the bench for 90 minutes at Old Trafford, and they need a goal.
I thought today would have been all right. I thought it was a tight game. He gets the ball and he can dribble. Do you know what I mean? He might get a nick of free kicking. You know, if I was Sterling now, you'd be thinking, will I be playing for Arsenal ever again?
Yeah, but the question is, you were saying, will they be in the race? I think they will be in the race.
They'll be in the title race.
Yeah, but it's no good being in the race if you're not going to win it.
Well, you've got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, but listen, we're talking about Arsenal here. Listen,
Well, I haven't won the league for over 20 years.
No, that's why I'm saying. So why are we sitting here thinking, yeah, we can say that for the next 10 years they'll be in the race, but it's no good being third, fourth. Who do you think is actually going to go and win it?
Roy,
That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about small clubs here.
But I thought they had,
Forest might finish ahead of them.
They've demonstrated, I think, last season and the season before that they've got hallmarks of a team, I think, that can go on to win the title. A little bit like the progression that Klopp made at Liverpool. And I'm disappointed in them this season that they've fallen short. When City aren't there, and I thought Arsenal would be there. And to be fair, Liverpool have had a fantastic season, but they've not delivered this season. This is the biggest problem, I think, this season for Mikel Arteta. Losing the title last season and the season before, I don't think was that much of a problem for him.
Do you think this one will hurt even more?
But
This one will hurt more. This one will hurt more.
They were in a great position.
What Man City
they were in a great position 3 years ago. So they've been in good positions where they've had people scoring goals. And was it 2 or 3 years ago? People said, "Oh, they're out of the FA Cup. It's great." I'm glad they won easily in Europe during the week, because if they had a tough game coming up, they'd be saying, "Oh, well, we're getting ready for next week." They had no excuses coming to United today. Yeah. Everything was there for Arsenal to go, "Listen, you've had a good win during the week. You don't have to worry about next week. You can come and put a show on." And obviously United were on about like the intensity. I think there was one booking in the game. You got to turn up and flex your muscle and say, "We're Arsenal, we're doing well, we're making progress, we've had a tough season, but we still do a good job on you." Didn't even do a job on United today. And United were there for the taking. United were just sitting and hoping for the best. They couldn't even do that. So why do we think next year this Arsenal team might get a striker in and they're going to win the league title? Well, I won't be putting any bets on Arsenal next year, let me tell you that. Not what I saw today.